Okie dokie. So, can everybody see my screen?
I do. Please, everyone, mute yourself for now.
Awesome. All righty. Well, we will give everybody a second, but in the meantime, so yes, this is Marketing 101. If you're listening to this, you're probably wondering a whole lot of questions, but really those questions might be, what kind of advertising can I do to increase the number of clients I have, the number of stallion bookings that my stallion gets, the number of horses that I sell, the number of breeches if you're a taxidermy owner that you sell, or you're thinking about what you can do in the future to build a business that you own or you want to own. And I'm really glad
this girl who I used to work with.
So quickly, I'd love to learn, what do you do? If you can put it in the chat, I'd love to know, are you a trainer? Are you an instructor? Do you sell horses? Are you a breeder, business owner? If none of those describe you, that's okay. Just feel free to drop it in the comments just so we can gauge who we're talking to today. And so I can make sure that this is really tailored to what you're looking for. Give everybody 2 seconds to do that. Okay. Now, before we get down to what we'll be talking about today, I do want to say out loud that I know everyone is in different phases of their marketing journey. Some of you might have active social media accounts. Some of you might have websites. Some of you might have been doing advertising and marketing for a really long time. And some of you might just be thinking about the opportunities that exist in the equestrian world. And you might not even be sure how to capture them all. And that's okay. Or you might not even know what they all are. That's why we're here. So my goal today is really to walk you through the basics of marketing, why it's important, and what we're here for. So here's a brief overview of what we're talking about. We're going to go through what marketing is and what it isn't, why it's important, and then we'll get into the how to market. Of course, this is going to be really broad. There's a reason people get multiple degrees in marketing. And we'll also talk about the marketing funnel itself. Finally, I'll briefly touch on how to know if our marketing even worked before diving into a Q&A session. Please feel free to hop into the chat at any time and enter your questions. I'll try to get to them as it makes sense during the presentation or afterwards. But first, I do want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. Who am I and why am I the one that's talking to you today? So, hi, my name is Erika Sentz. I know you because I am you. I have 20 plus years experience with sport horses. I know breeders, trainers, and riders because we breed, develop, and show Dutch horses, mainly for the 100 jumper rings at Ashcombe Sporthorses. We're in Glen Rock, Pennsylvania, as well as Ocala, where I am right now. And I know stallions because we stand Vinca, who is by Maytal out of an Idicus mare. I also have 15 plus years experience in marketing. So I have agency and in-house experience with Fortune 100 brands, as well as freelance web and brand design experience for mainly equestrian small businesses. Currently, I'm the senior manager of digital marketing at WP Engine, the #1 WordPress platform. There I run the testing and conversion rate optimization program. So the long of the short of that is that I'm constantly working to improve our website to increase the revenue that comes from it. So now that that's out of the way, let's get started. What is marketing? Marketing is everything that a company does to promote and sell their products or services to consumers. If you need to persuade someone to take action, you're doing marketing. A quick note, if you hear someone say, I don't do marketing, they probably mean I don't spend money on ads. Those are two very different things. Marketing doesn't necessarily equal ad spend, but ad spend is a part of it. Why is it important? Marketing gives your business a voice. It allows you to share your products and your services strategically with a niche audience in mind. And I'm going to repeat that again because there's two really important words in that. It allows you to share your products and services strategically with a niche audience in mind. So most of you probably came here tonight because you're wondering, how do I market myself? Great question. I want to walk you through a couple of steps and exercises that I've always used with entrepreneurs that I've worked with to help figure out who they are before they put the energy and the money into what to do. So step one, you have to figure out who you are. Do you know what makes you unique? Do you know what makes you the only in your category? This is really important because as horse people especially, there's a lot of us that are doing somewhat similar things. But when you peel back the layers, we actually have all different things that we bring to the table that make us stand out. So this first exercise, and I absolutely love this one, and anyone that I work with, this is probably one of the first things that we're going to do, is called We're Creating an Onlyness Statement. This was conceived by Marty Neumeier in his brand strategy book, Zag, which if you're a marketing nerd like I am, it's a great book, highly recommend. Creating your onlyness statement is the most powerful way of communicating the difference between yourself and your competitors. It answers the who, what, where, when, how, and why of your business. And I did pull one together, so let's all enjoy this. This is an example of an onlyness statement. So Erika Unicorns LLC is the only pony breeder that produces purple unicorns for 4-year-old children in North America who need careful, quiet ponies to learn how to ride during hectic, rainy horse shows. Super specific. And I can promise you I'm probably the only purple unicorn breeder in North America. So use the onlyness statement. After this call, when we are posting the recording, I'll make sure to include a link that can talk about it a little bit more, or read Marty Neumeier's book, Zag. Step two, after you've figured out who you are, is to figure out your audience. You don't want to waste your time or your money. So you have to figure out who is your audience? Where are they located? How do you reach them? What do they want? And what do they need to know? My favorite exercise for this is where we do, and I'm not sure where my slides are going. Let's go, guys. It's called a day in the life of. This is where you lay out what an average day for your customer looks like. What is their profession? What are their hobbies? And what are their habits? How do they consume content? And probably most importantly, what problem in your day or in their day does your product or service solve for your main character? And then step three, we're going to map out our channels and tactics. You figured out who you are and you figured out who your customer is. Now, how do you reach them? When we're talking tactics and marketing channels, we first have to talk about the marketing funnel. You're going to say, Erika, what is the marketing funnel? It is the path that customers can take to purchase. The marketing funnel will help you understand how to best connect with and engage with your audience. And as a note, it's really important that if you have to meet your buyers where they are. A huge disconnect will transpire if you don't. Don't try to sell to someone who isn't ready to convert. And keep this in mind as you're wooing in new customers. And of course, admittedly, the marketing funnel phrase is a buzzword in the marketing community, so you can impress people with that. Something also important to note is that modern buyers come and go from various stages of the funnel. So say you have someone who is reaching out to you and they're looking for a Grand Prix schoolmaster. You know, they have a general idea. They want to be able to ride all the moves of the Grand Prix. And so they're just figuring out what they need to do and who they need to go to. They're looking up breeders, they're looking up trainers, they're looking up sellers, they're looking up the best pedigrees to make that specific horse. And then they'll finally buy something. And maybe 2 years down the road, after they've converted, they're going to say, hey, I think I want a young person. This is where they come back to the top of the funnel. They come up and go back and forth at various times. And this is where they're going to go, okay, well, maybe, you know, I need to figure out a different pedigrees that I want to look into for this. They're building that awareness again. So remember, people can come and go from different stages of the funnel. So we're going to talk top of funnel first. This part of the funnel is all about attracting and building brand awareness. Your goal is to educate this audience. You're supposed to be helpful to potential customers as they're figuring out their challenges and prioritizing solutions. This is your chance to educate your audience to build that trust that they need to take the next step with you. you should provide informational and inspirational content that can help your audience better understand their problem. And remember, don't sell when someone's not ready. The best thing you can do to build brand awareness that I have found when it comes to marketing, especially in the equestrian community, is to create a couple of things. Create a website that has information about you. It's that source of truth for people. They can find out who you are, what you do, and why you're qualified to be doing what you're doing. Then start creating social media accounts. Look back at that target audience we made in step 2. What social media platforms do they spend their day on? My warning here is to not overdo it. Be focused in your approach. Figure out what you have time to reasonably do and hold yourself accountable. You don't need to have 5 accounts spread across different platforms, 3 of which sit dormant while 2 are actually active. Just have those 2 accounts then. There's no one saying you need to have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a YouTube, a TikTok. That is a way of the past. If Facebook and Instagram are where your audience are, use that and create content for that. Once you've tackled that, you can start thinking about Google Business Profiles, which used to be called Google My Business until I learned that this morning. You can create a blog off of your website where you can help educate and build that awareness around who you are and why you know what you're doing. You can also approach email marketing, maybe have a newsletter perhaps. You can have press releases or even directory listings. And this is kind of that shameless plug to the KWPN-NA that maybe this is the styling directory with the registries that you choose, or maybe it's a breeder directory like the KWPN-NA has. And this is also the opportunity to create 101 level content, just like this webinar, where you can talk about the knowledge that you have and that you know that makes you good at what you do. Next up, we will talk mid-funnel. This is the part of the journey where customers are considering how to proceed. So help them solve their problem as they're comparing solution. Here in the middle funnel, it's really a tricky balance where we're kind of talking about our products and services, but we still want to be incredibly educational at the same time. So remember, you are the expert, and now you have to prove it to them. Support your buyers' research and their evaluation in the consideration part of the journey. This is a great opportunity to lean on customer validation. This is where you can use those testimonials, customer success stories. Let your customers do the talking for you here. You can also provide users research on yourself as well as your product. And this is a great time to compare yourself and your product to your competitors. But you don't actually have to mention your competitors' names. You can say some buzzwords that might make sense for you that your customer doesn't do, or your competitor doesn't do. Just remember, at the end of the day, you're not describing your customer's problem at this point. You're solving it. When it comes to mid-funnel, I will say this is the part of the funnel that a lot of us forget about when we're doing marketing. And that's really because not everybody actually will hit the mid-funnel part of the journey, but it is important. Start asking for reviews. I'm talking on Facebook, Google My Business, Yelp, but be sure to ask for them depending on where you figured out your customers will look for them. If they never in a million years will use Yelp, don't worry about it. Also, this is a kind reminder that you cannot pay for people to post reviews to platforms like Google. They will flag it, they will remove the review, they might even remove your profile. Not worth the hassle nor the effort that it'll take to get everything back. These reviews will also help you rank in organic Google search results, especially if your customers use key terms on Google that relate to your area of business. For example, someone might type, "Jake is the best hunter jumper trainer that I've ever ridden with." That'll help you with those hunter jumper related keywords, for instance. From there, lean into research and results. This means the success of what you've bred, the success of your students, and why your product is the best in the market. This is also my reminder that as you're collecting information, to ensure that all of your horses are up to date on their predicates and that you're keeping track of your points towards a KWPN-NA Breeder Achievement Award. Then, once you have these awards for your program and your horses, let potential customers know. It distinguishes you from the rest and helps answer, why should a potential customer work with you instead of someone else, without saying someone else's name? This is also a really good time to do more in-depth educational information to really capture individuals who are interested in the specifics of what you do. For instance, this webinar would be a great top of funnel webinar because we're talking basics. However, if I wanted to do something more mid-funnel, I'd probably talk about the specifics of Google My Business and how to optimize your listings for your business's success. And when I do that, I'll ask for your email address so I can contact you about offerings that I have lower in the funnel in the future, if you're interested. Or instead of a webinar, I might have a handy PDF available that I want to share with you in exchange for your contact information that talks about why Google My Business matters and how I can help you build your own profile. And finally, now that we've hit on top of funnel and mid funnel, let's talk bottom funnel. This is where your potential customer is ready to make an informed decision to buy what you're selling or what someone else is selling. This is the time for action in closing the deal. Help your customers confirm their choice and avoid buyer's remorse. Remember, we're selling here. You can actually do that here. Your messaging should be direct, informative, and benefits, not feature focused. Plus, this is that time where you can be a little self-serving in your content. However, make sure you show your buyers how your product or services will meet their needs. And when you're thinking of these marketing tactics, ask yourself, will X, Y, and Z validate the buyer's decision and purchase what I'm selling? This is a good time to offer something a little more meaty, maybe for free, maybe for a small fee. If you're an instructor, for instance, you can offer a complimentary lesson to ensure your personality and your potential students' personality match. Or you could let interested breeders come and meet your stallions. And yes, having the buyer come sit on the horse to try it out counts here. At the end of the day, you're showing them that whatever you're selling, a product or a service, is right for them. So you're probably wondering, how do I know that everything write down how many calls that you got that month about, maybe it's a specific horse, maybe it's about a specific product you have to offer. This is also a really great time to write down your social media numbers. And I'm not talking really intricate stuff here. I'm just saying, write down the number of likes that you have on Facebook or the number of followers that you have on Instagram. It's as easy as that. For mid-level, we start working in way more data if you're comfortable with it. But everyone doesn't need this data in their point in their journey. It might be overkill. Or there could be someone else in your business who does need this information. This is where you can bring in Google Analytics to start amassing data for a website, if you have one, or a lot of websites where you could post horses for sale. Start to include how many people looked at your ads, how many people clicked them, write it all down. Create spreadsheets where you can include this data from Google Analytics, from whatever site you're selling on. The KWPN-NA has a sales site that actually says all of this stuff. Write it down. And then you can also include impression and click data from social media platforms, especially if you're starting to do some basic display advertising. And then for this last advanced rung, some of you might scratch your head at. But if you're following me, you can add UTM parameters, which are called urchin tracking modules. Weird name, I know. They're a great way to figure out what is working and what isn't. And when I said I was obsessive about data earlier, I'm telling you that I track every ad that we place on Facebook. Every time I respond to someone with a horse, I actually have all of that information about how many times people clicked it. I also have tracking on every social media account our business has to understand who is coming from what person's profile. Like I said, Data drives my life. So at the end of the day, I will tell you my mantra: try, test, fail sometimes, and try again. That's all what the marketing journey is about. Here's my shocking statistic of the day, and this is really relevant to my day job, where I'm running A/B testing on websites. According to a study, 1 in 7 A/B tests, where maybe you're just changing a word on a website, are the ones that will win and give you better conversions. That means for every 7 tests that I try, only 1 is going to win. That's a lot of testing, and that's a lot of failing, but we're going to keep going at it. So now apply that to your business. For every 7 ads you might post to groups on Facebook, 1 might be a winner. It's crazy, right? And I know that's scary, but this is really an opportunity to learn. We're rinsing and we're repeating. If you're not seeing the impact of your marketing, try again. This means you can do it completely differently. You can post something in a completely new place, or you can make small changes like to the text that you're using, maybe the image that you've selected. Change it up, see what happens. But remember, at the end of the day, what works for you might not work for your friends, and vice versa. What works for them, or your competitors even, might not work for you. That's why it's important to keep learning throughout the marketing journey and to keep thinking about what you're doing. Don't stay stagnant. And of course, if you can't find someone, or if you can't do something, find someone who can help you. I use this analogy a lot. If you're an amateur, you might hire a trainer to teach you or your horse how to do something that you don't know. And that's okay. The same goes with marketing. If you don't know how to create a website, you don't know how to create a Google My Business profile, you don't know how to write ad copy, you don't know how to do something else, that's okay. Ask people who know what they're doing. They're happy to help. So I know I blew through that a little quickly. Let's get to questions. And if anyone needs help, feel free to reach out. I have included my email address here. I've also included my personal Facebook page here. So feel free to friend me on Facebook and we can chat further. And now I'm really just kind of opening the door to say, what questions do you have? Did I not answer something for you that you were hoping I answered? Maybe not.
I'm thinking about a smart question, Erika.
Come on, Liz, I know you can give me one.
I think Carly has a question.
Yes, Carly. Oh,
I see.
maybe I should unmute
There you
you.
go.
Okay, now
Yeah.
I have a question for websites. I always struggle with like how much, like how many pages is too much or how many is too little. Like how much do you divide things up?
Yeah, so the answer is, and you're going to kill me for this, Carly, it depends. The language of websites has really changed. So we used to have a lot of pages with really short information, and we used to make people click from page to page to page to page because we didn't want to overload them. And I used to think this was the way to go, especially because mobile is so, it's like it's 70% of traffic, I think, on our own farm website is mobile these days. And now that, I've looked at analytics and I've talked to a lot of different people, we're more comfortable with longer pages with more information. So what that means is I would say include as much information that gets your point across, that talks about exactly who you are, but start, once you have that in place, this is that like rinse and repeat, test it. Like if people aren't reacting to it, if they're not clicking to go to the next page, they're not filling out forms, they're not calling you about horses, shorten it up, try something new. I will say your entire website doesn't have to be connected anymore. So for us, for instance, I have a lot of our website that is accessible from one place. And then if I'm selling horses, I have specific pages for those horses that might not actually be linked to the site because it has some more information that I probably wasn't going to give to the average person. So you can also do it that way where there are certain audiences that you give all of the information, you kind of just, word vomit almost. And then there's other parts of the site where if it's to everybody, you keep it a little tighter and you make them, want more and want to know more things. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Okay, Maria, so how would you recommend to market a stallion? Definitely depends on the stallion. It definitely depends on what his career has been so far and whether or not he has kids. And I say that because if he's had a performance career, a lot of people probably, a lot of your target audience has probably seen him out in the ring, or they have a friend or a trainer that's seen him out in the ring. So that might be a little bit easier to get the performance-minded people. If he doesn't have that performance career yet, or maybe he came over from Europe and he's not as well known over here, I would honestly really start, I'd start that website that has all of his information so people aren't going to a million different places to get it. And then I would start listing him at the registries that make sense. So you're not with the KWPN-NA already. This is your time, this is your call. We have a stallion service auction. That's a great way to advertise, and Liz does an amazing job really marketing that and marketing all the horses that are listed in it. And then from there, I would make sure, I'd use the groups on Facebook to start. Figure out, where people are going to find mare information. And then you can sometimes respond. Some groups don't like you responding with your own stallion. Respond there. I'd also look at the stallions that are similar to your stallion. Say, if you have a dressage stallion, Google that horse's name and see where he's listed. If he's in a bunch of print ads, start getting in magazines. I know it's kind of gone away with the times, but I know Plaid Horse has a really big stallion issue. Chronicle has a really big stallion issue. Those are all really important to certain breeders. And there's still a class of people who use those magazines. So, Google that stallion's name that you want your stallion to be the same as, and start doing what they do. And then from there, I really, once you have progeny on the ground, if you don't already, make sure that the foal owners are talking about him. If they're going to horse shows, make sure that if there is a pedigree that is listed on a scoreboard, that they're actually listed on the scoreboard. And this is also a great time, a lot of registries are allowing, you can have those predicates. Keep track of what the kids are doing for the stallions and make sure that everyone's getting their predicates. So if we had a colt who's now a Grand Prix dressage horse, and the owner, predicates don't matter to her, right? Like, she loves what she has. She's doing an amazing job with him as an amateur. But I wanted to get the dam her predicate. So I went through the process for her. I did all the paperwork for her. And I said, all you have to do is mail in his papers. And she was like, okay, that's so easy. Like, I'll happily do that. So you can start doing things for those foal owners to help them help you. Hopefully that helps, Maria. Let me know if you have any other questions. Sarah, I am a new breeder just starting up and getting my ducks in a row in terms of marketing. But that also means I don't have products yet. What would you suggest I alter from what you just suggested before getting traction in the marketing beforehand? That's a great question. So you're just starting out and you don't have that product yet. I would honestly recommend probably networking a lot with other breeders in your area, around the country, and just kind of getting your name out there. Make friends, see what works for them, see what doesn't work for them. And then as you start getting foals on the ground, have that Facebook page. If you're not ready to have a website, that's totally fine. Have a Facebook page where you can talk about, if there's a broodmare in foal, talk about her and talk about what she's done and talk about the stallion that you bred to and post a picture of her. Maybe you just gave her a bath and she's 7 months pregnant and she's, as big as a house. You can start doing things like that to start building that following. And from there, once that foal hits the ground, you can really start talking about it. If it's not for sale, that's totally fine. Maybe you're just breeding this first one for you, but you can still talk about it. You might get people asking you if it's for sale, and more comments and more likes on your Facebook posts will boost the visibility. So it's not a bad thing if people are asking. Sophie, I saw that you raised your hand. How can I help
Hi
you?
there. We are in a little bit of a, I'm going to say, unique situation. We're located in Canada. We're the only, I'm going to say, very active Dutch harness horse breeder that registered foals with KWPN-NA. We are involved with the committees as well, but it's super hard, especially with COVID in the last 2 years. It's super hard to market the foals because, and our niche is really into the foals. We tried to sell them before they're 1 year old, but it's really, really hard when you're talking about such a wide, I'm going to talk about North America. Do you have any tricks? And this is just as good for US people trying to sell maybe to Europe. So let's talk about faraway land that we want to try to reach. So do you have any tricks for us?
I would honestly say networking is your best bet. I know from what I know about Dutch harness horses is that it's a very close community. And so I'd make sure that you are making friends with everybody. And then there's a lot of opportunities. We had the online currings last year, which went amazingly well. We had a great end of curring wrap up where we talked about the winners and we talked about who did what. And that was a really great opportunity for everyone at the end to really network and talk about, what they're producing and their horses. And maybe this is something I should do differently. So I definitely say networking is probably your best bet. And then when you have these foals, I think the best thing to get them sold is good quality materials. So you want to have those pictures where they're bathed, they're dry, they're standing the way that they need to stand, or they're moving in the field and they look the part. You want people to be able to imagine it, and you want that high quality material. And the same with video. The cool thing is that our iPhones, our phones nowadays, they have really great quality cameras on them. And this is a really great time that you can just take video on your phone. A lot of times with foals, we have to try. So don't expect to get it on the first cut, but having that high quality material is really helpful. Another thing is that a lot of stallion owners are happy to help. So if whatever stallion you bred to, see what they do. If they're going to post about if they're going to post about foals that are of their stallions, make sure they have your information. Say, hey, do you mind if I send you the video, I send you the pictures, and I send you some information, could you post that on social media? I know Iron Spring and Hilltop have portions of their site dedicated to foals of their stallions. And so having that information is a really great way of reaching those potential buyers. And I might actually call on Liz as well, because I know Liz has a little more experience with some Dutch harness people. Is there anything I missed?
No, I think you mentioned what I also think is the most important is to get good material and then make sure that you're present that everywhere that is relevant to the community. So, but I think Sophie does really well with that already. Like she makes good quality videos and pictures and, just maybe try to how do you say it, like plus that up, like do it a little bit more, and also evolve like the mother, and just make it more of a storyline, so people get like closer to you, like and get to know you a little bit, and what your vision is with your breeding, and put it out there in the right groups without being like too much in it, but just like try to figure out what works. And maybe I know you and what you're doing. I think you can up it a tiny bit, but I already think that your videos and pictures are of good quality. So I think you're on the right track, Sophie, seriously.
Well, thank you. We do get a lot of hits. We do get a lot of likes. And you saw that, Liz, because you commented, well, you put some likes this week. We put some pictures of the foals just doing almost nothing or just playing around. And so we get a lot of people involved, but I mean, most of my foals are sold, so it's not really an issue. It's not like I'm stuck with a whole bunch of foals, but we always try to look at different ways to make it more, but you don't want to be overbearing either and just flood Facebook or flood the medias and always be the one. And, you kind of go, I don't want people to think that we're trying to hug everything, but you want to be out there, but how much is too much?
I mean, honestly, so there's probably two answers to that question. The first one is no one's going to talk about you if you're not the one doing it. At the end of the day, you're probably, if you're not doing it, who else is? So you really should, I mean, you don't have to be super self-serving, but talk about facts. You don't have to be overly, we won this and we won this and we won this. It can be more general content, informational content. I would also say, if you're seeing great success, keep doing what you're doing. If maybe you're getting a lot of likes, but they're not translating into leads, try something different, right? Like post to a different place, or maybe if you're posting of the same kind of picture or the same kind of comments on your photos every time, try something new, say something different. If you're only posting photos, post videos. Videos do really well on Facebook. I hate having to put videos together if it's not just a video of a horse in the show arena. I hate doing it. I think it's one of the most miserable things that I can do. And that's one of those things I'm like, can I find someone else to do this? But videos do really well. So if you're not doing a lot of video, add in video, really change that mix up of what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So I'm looking in chat, and Ginger Parker said, what are the ethics in poaching another advertiser's post? I've had ads on Facebook, and occasionally other sellers have responded to queries in the comments. Fair game or taboo? I could go either way on this. And I only say that because I was looking for someone to work for our firm yesterday and started poaching people who were responding to ads in another spot. So, I mean, I'm guilty of doing it too. I think at the end of the day, it's social media, it's in the public, it's fair game. Don't bash anybody while you're doing it. Don't say, well, this horse, it only has X amount of miles doing what it's doing, or it's only doing this. I think just be very straightforward. I will sometimes say, hey, if what that response was that you got wasn't what you're looking for, I have this, and kind of go from there. So that was kind of a non-answer, but I think we could go either way with that. I'm actually really curious what other people think of that too. Can you respond? So the question is, if you post something like an ad on Facebook and you're getting people who are saying, they're saying like, hey, I want to buy this one. And then you have someone else that's selling basically what you are, swoop in and say, well, hey, I've got one too. Fair game, not fair game. Anybody? Liz, I see you going.
I wouldn't advise anyone to do that, honestly. But
Not the official byline.
No, for me, it's not something I would like. If I would have a client asking me like, oh, I'm selling this horse and what do you advise, like this and that, it's quite an aggressive approach in my opinion, and I would not recommend that. Like your imago, do you say that in English? Your image, like you come across a certain way on social media, and like you have to always watch your tone, and a tone is also in the way you write and in the posts you make and in the comments you post, and everybody will see it. Trust me, they'll talk about you. It's important.
I think tone right is probably the best way of doing it. Like you can do it in a certain way that doesn't come off as like over anything. So that's probably the most important way of, like, if you're gonna do it with a smile.
Yeah, make it like super friendly, or say like, I don't want to impose, but this and this and
Yeah,
that. Like maybe,
be
sure about it, be nice about it. I think that's important. But
I'm just gonna chime in and say I have a weird hobby that I'm involved in high-end houseplant community as well. And many of the Facebook groups where they're selling, $200, $2,000 plants, there's actually rules against that in many of the groups I'm in, unless you're offering something distinctly different enough. The person's like, oh, I'm interested. Oh, but it's not X, Y, and Z precisely. Then you can say, and I have something that's better fitted for you, because you're obviously not going to buy the thing that's in the ad now.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Honestly, follow the rules, right? Like if the group says you can do that, do it. If it says you can't, maybe they post it in another group. Joyce asked, I agree in using the successes of offspring to market subsequent horses and foals. However, I've had foals disappear when sold, when the new owners sell or just apparently lose interest in communicating. I then can't talk about what these youngsters are up to in terms of performance. Do you have suggestions for finding lost horses? My first suggestion would be making sure everything is microchipped. because these days, that's how you're going to figure out if they're doing something with the USCF. You're going to find it that way. We're showing at WEC right now, and NSBA is here and not USCF. They still require a microchip. So at the end of the day, you can figure out who those horses are, and that will help you keep track. Also check with the registries. Kelly and Drew are fantastic, super easy to access in the Dutch office. And, if you say, hey, I have this horse, who's the current owner in the system? They can help you figure that out. I've definitely gone down this rabbit hole before and finding progeny that we bred that I haven't heard from in a while. I'm really good at just searching on Facebook. And you can start going through different people that might have had it and see if they have any pictures of it and start tracking dates. And then 9 times out of 10, I will find a trainer who has had the horse, or I'll find a rider who rode the horse at a lesson barn. And from there, you can just ask them some questions. Hey, what's this horse even going by these days? Where did you show it? What area of the country, the world do you live in? And you can start piecing together a story to help you figure out where that horse is. And from there, everybody likes posting on Facebook and Instagram. So those are really your best bet. Like, find those people who probably touched the horse at some point and start asking them. And they'll probably say, hey, my friend X, Y, and Z has it. Or they'll send you a picture. But it's not impossible. It's not super easy, but I would start there. I'm glad now that we have microchips, because this just makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. We've also had horses where we had them registered with USCF. They were microchipped, and then somehow, actually, because they weren't hunter jumpers, they're dressage horses, so they're not required to be microchipped. The owner has paid to have a new USCF number, and so I'll use I'll search the owners. I'll search like very general things about the horse. Maybe they used the sire's name, maybe they didn't. And I'll start piecing things together. And then at the end of the day, I've gone to the USCF and said, hey, this horse has 2 USCF profiles. Can you combine them? And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's not allowed. So we will happily. So that's kind of not the best answer. I wish I had a magic crystal ball where I could say, this is exactly where that horse is. But that's a good way to start. And like Kelly said, a lot of our breeders do what I said about predicating the mares, even if they aren't theirs. They keep track of their offspring's performance and contact us to help with that as well. The offices, Kelly and Drew are great about that. I'll send them a million questions, daily, weekly, sometimes, Kelly, and they'll answer them quickly. And if they don't have the answer, they'll say, hey, this other person can help you with that. Whether it's at the USCF or it's in the Netherlands, someone's got an answer for us.
Yeah, we get a lot of calls of exactly what you just said, that the horses, they don't know where it is. And you sound a lot like Drew. She's a super sleuth. And she can find things, needle in a haystack, and it's stalking Facebook. And we've found horses that way. The microchipping is obviously the best, and now that a lot of shows do require it, it's great. But like you said, there are some that don't. I've helped harness horse people try to find offspring by markings. Now that takes some time depending on the sire, but they'll send me a picture, and we've got baby pictures of almost every single horse. And, we've found horses that way too. But the USCF horse search is a great way to start. But like you said, I worked at USCF, and they don't want to use that name. They don't want to use that number. They don't like that horse's sport record, and they'll try to start completely brand new. And it's just, the microchipping will hopefully stop so much of that. But it is hard when they disappear, like you said. And, but there are ways. It's kind of a fun part of our job when it's obviously if you get a good ending and you can find the horse, but we do a lot of sleuthing and looking around and trying to find them. It's not a small part of what we do.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Let's see. Yep, Joyce, you've sent an email to Drew. While everybody is thinking of questions, I will say I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but I love sharing things website related. So let's see if my slide will go. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. No, not, yeah. Okay. So for everybody on this call today, I'm going to do something that I love doing, and I just usually don't have the time to do. What I'm going to do is offer free website audits. So I am think of me as like your third party customer, basically, who I want to see you succeed. I want to see you sell me something. And I'm going to decipher your website journey for you. So I'll walk through your website on desktop. I'll work through your website on mobile, and I'll let you know what I would do if I would improve it by any way. Or, maybe it's great and it's exactly what I, would hope to see as someone who's shopping for a foal. Maybe I'm looking for a new breeder. Maybe I'm looking to buy a new pair of breeches. There is no strings attached to this at all. I'm not trying to sell you something. I just enjoy doing this. My warning is that we are in Ocala. We're showing for the next 6 more weeks, and it might take me a minute to get through all of them, but I promise I will. Just send me your name, what your business is, and a link, and I will try to get it as fast as possible. So
Thank you, Erica. That's really nice.
heck yeah, I love doing them. Yeah, Sarah, you gotta finish that website. But you can even send me like where you are now. That's something I'm happy to look at and help you figure out where to go next. Anything else? I know we've almost been on for an hour. I'm happy to stay and answer more specific questions. Otherwise, this is recorded, so you can watch it again another time. Maybe you've had some time to process it. Feel free, like I said, email me questions if you're not emailing me that audit or your website to audit. I'm happy to answer. Friend me on Facebook, and we can chat, and we can look at what you're doing and see how we can make it better. Because at the end of the day, I want everybody to be successful. So awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Erica.
so much, Erika.
Absolutely.
And thanks everybody for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. I'm going to close the chat and